Rayman is closer than we think, and I have lots to tell you, so strap in because it's copium leak time once again. It's been a while since we've had anything this interesting, so be sure to stay to the end to catch everything, because while what I'm about to tell you is from a leaker, I have a pretty good batch of evidence to suggest they're quite reliable in this area this time. So, a leaker on Twitter named Nash Weedle, I won't piss about, here's what he said. Leak Express, Rayman. 2 Rayman games are in development. A compilation has been considered. Merging 3D gameplay with the art of Origins and Legends has been tested, and it's very likely that some behind-the-scenes testing will be possible at Gamescom. Let's go through this point by point, then I'm going to share some thoughts and explain why I think this has a very good chance of being true. Obviously, bear in mind that this should be taken with a pinch of salt though, as is everything ever leaked by anyone, because, you know, until it happens, we can't be sure that it's true. Anyway, 2 Rayman games in development. Yeah, 100%, I'm with that, of course it is. I've been saying this for a while. Forget the Rayman 3 remastered stuff for a second, and if you're new to the channel, just don't worry. We don't talk about that anymore, so you don't need to know. But what I have been saying since October last year is that they're not just working on one game. They've been advertising jobs for the Rayman brand, which immediately tells us that they have plans beyond just one game, otherwise they would hire for a single game. But even before that, I thought they'd be making 2 at once anyway. It was originally leaked and then more or less confirmed that they were working on a remake, which is fine, and I have a pretty solid guess now as to which one it is, but we'll get to that later. But if they are remaking a Rayman game with the intention of reigniting the series, then they'll have Rayman 4 in mind at least. So why make a game with a new engine and new assets and new animations and new worlds, and then just let it go to waste? Risk it being a flop and a waste of money? No way, of course not. But if you made 2 games side by side, a remake of an old game, and a new game using the same engine, assets and principles, like, I don't know, the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy followed by Crash 4, you slash the development time and costs, and almost guarantee an overall profit. That's just my opinion, anyway, but I've been saying this all along since it was first leaked that Rayman was coming back. The leak also suggests a compilation was considered. What kind of compilation? Are we talking, Crash Insane trilogy compilation with a full remake of multiple games? Or are we just getting next-gen ports of Rayman 1, 2, 3, Origins, Legends, Rabbids, whatever? I can see either. If it's a compilation of ports, just, directly unaltered games, then I would imagine it's Rayman 1, 2, and 3. If it's a remake style compilation, then it is absolutely Rayman 2 and Rayman 3 remade together in the same engine, the same style, and blah blah blah, which is, for the record, is currently my leading theory. I've been saying since day 1 that they're remaking Rayman 2. I considered briefly for a while that it could be Rayman 1, but let's be real. It's Rayman 2. Of course they're remaking Rayman 2. Why wouldn't they be remaking Rayman 2? The next point is really interesting. So apparently they're merging 3D gameplay with the art style of Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends. Now, I don't know what to think of this. I believe it. Firstly, I want to say that. I do believe it. They want a 3D platformer, and they know Legends is the most well-known at the moment amongst people. We've got to bear in mind the last 3D Rayman game is 22 years old. Legends is admittedly 12 years old, so it's still a long time, but that's the one people are going to recognize. So to the naked eye, to the non-hardcore fan, it's going to be a 3D version of Legends, which was that game they once played and enjoyed, I think objectively it's probably a smart move. I just don't know how it'll work if it is a remake of a previous game, Like Rayman 2 is about slavery. Legends is about being goofy. Do they mix? Probably not, I would think. For a new game though, I can totally see a 3D Origins or Legends style thing. It would work. It's just really exciting. Now the final point here, which raises my eyebrows a little bit, is apparently it is very likely some behind the scenes testing will happen at Gamescom. That is next week. Really? What kind of testing? This is a tweet translated from Spanish, by the way, so if any of this is wrong, please do let me know in the comments. I appreciate that certain subtext or extra meanings in sentences can be lost during translation, so maybe it's obvious, but to me testing in this context can mean 2 things. One, and this is the one I really hope for, is that people can go in and play a playable build of a new Rayman game. Or 2, animations, pitches and vibes are tested to some audiences to gauge interest. Also very good because at least fans would then have a chance to give input. Either is good and it's fine, but a playable build is gooder. Obviously take all this with a pinch of salt, which leads me to my next point, which is, if you want to keep updated on Rayman news or you just like my channel, feel free to subscribe. No, I'm kidding. The next point is, how reliable is this Nash Weedle guy? I've done some digging and I'm torn, to be honest. The man is objectively right about a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff that he clearly is getting from legit sources. There's also a hell of a lot that he has leaked or predicted so far in advance that we're yet to find out if he's right. So I'm just going to reel off a couple of notable things he's said in the past and then go over some recent other posts he's made that make me believe some of this a little bit more. Back in August 2024, so a whole year ago, Nash said that Assassin's Creed Shadows would be released on the Nintendo Switch 2. That is a bold statement. No one else was saying that. In fact, people laughed at him and said, what's wrong with you? There's no way this is happening. Well, in April it leaked that this was in fact the case when it got rated on the Switch 2. That's pretty conclusive. That's promptly been hidden, to be fair, but it's a very open secret now that Assassin's Creed Shadows on Switch 2 is incoming very, very soon. Nash's original leak said that Assassin's Creed Shadows would be coming during the launch period of the Switch 2, which is roughly the first 6 months, so it's probably going to come out in like November sort of time. He also said in mid-2023, completely out of the blue, that Yakuza games would be ported to Nintendo consoles, with the Switch 2 receiving 3 of them in a bundle at launch. Now, it wasn't a bundle after all, but there are 3 of them, and it was a wild pull to have just made that up 2 years in advance, so I'm willing to guess he did actually know something and had a proper source that time. He's also said stuff like Mario Wonder having new lines recorded potentially for an expansion, a new 3D Yoshi game being in development, and various Nintendo Directs being leaked, although he's not always been the first to say these. Interestingly, recently he did a little leak express for Beyond Good and Evil 2 as well, saying things like it was still in development earlier this year, the game might be having a name change, or at the very least it's been considered. There was a story trailer made but never released, and that generative AI specialists are being hired for NPCs. Weird stuff to have randomly just made up. I mean, he could have done, of course, but all of this is believable. In fact, it's exactly really what I would have expected. Beyond Good and Evil 2 might as well be a different franchise at this point, so a name change makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's also a prequel, not a sequel, so it should never have been called Beyond Good and Evil 2. I mean, I guess that worked for Red Dead Redemption 2, but to be fair, Red Dead 3 being called Red Dead Redemption 2, despite being a prequel to Red Dead Redemption, will never not piss me off. A story trailer not being released? Well, considering how often this game had massive scope changes, it makes sense to suddenly have dropped a trailer if the premise changes. Still in development early this year? Yeah, we know that's true. And the generative AI thing, sadly I believe it. My point is, all of this sounds believable, but what is Nash Weedle's source? Well, recently he spoke to an ex-employee at a certain video game company and had some interesting discussions. Simple as that, really. He clearly spoke to someone who used to work at Ubisoft and is getting his information from them. Now, this all still could be bollocks for the sake of clout, but there's something about this and the bizarre things this guy has gotten right before that just has me intrigued. If he did speak to an ex-employee, then this makes total sense. This is intimate knowledge of the franchises and the company and the games, so an ex-employee would really be the only direct person to know and share that stuff. I don't know, I'm usually skeptical these days after the thing we don't talk about, unless it does come true, at which point we say that I never doubted it, okay? This just feels different. I don't know, we'll know in about a week if this does end up being true, as Gamescom is very soon, and I guess the Gamescom thing could be not true and the rest of it true, but I think it's going to be a pretty good gauge. So yeah, big things could be happening. I have a lot of theories about Ubisoft and Gamescom this year. I think Assassin's Creed is going to be a huge presence, as it kind of always is at every Ubisoft showcase, but honestly I'm thinking they could really have a lot to show this year from their other IPs. If a Rayman remake is coming, surely it's not ready yet, but maybe they've got something playable? I would imagine it's Rayman 2. I mean, I'm pretty certain it's Rayman 2. If it's not, then it's 2 and 3. Anyway, that's all I got. Bye.